Today, I'm honored to welcome Dr. Matthew Lederman to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast. Dr. Lederman is a board-certified internal medicine physician, connection-centered health innovator, and a true pioneer in helping people heal by addressing the root causes of emotional disconnection. With over 20 years of experience, Dr. Lederman has dedicated his career to blending science with soul, using tools like nonviolent communication, polyvagal theory, trauma healing, and lifestyle medicine to help individuals reconnect with themselves and others. For men over 40 navigating the challenges of divorce, Dr. Lederman's insights are invaluable. He believes that true healing begins with restoring safety, presence, and meaningful relationships. Elements often lost in the chaos of life transitions. As the co-founder of Connectin, a coaching platform that uses AI to foster connection, and the co-author of 6 books, including the New York Times bestseller, Forks Over Knives, Plan and Wellness to Wonderful, 9 Pillars for Living Healthier, Longer with Greater Joy. Dr. Lederman brings a wealth of knowledge and practical tools to help men rebuild their life after divorce. Dr. Lederman's message is simple yet profound. We don't need to perform to be whole. We need to feel safe enough to be real. Today, we'll dive into his expertise and explore how men can heal, rediscover their identity, and create meaningful connections after divorce. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lederman, and I should have cut that down a little bit. Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast, with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery, either before, during, or after a divorce.
The show is over. So thank you very much for being here.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I enjoyed talking to you right away. I really like your energy and just how you show up. It's amazing just how, depending on how you show up, it totally affects the connection, and then it actually is a ripple effect where my energy's up just from how you're showing up. So I just noticed that, wanted to name that. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. My focus really, I guess, is as a healer and trying to help people heal, including myself. Lately, we go into the backstory of conventional medicine and lifestyle and nutrition and all that stuff. All of those were tools that we added to the toolbox to give people more effective healing opportunity. But the most recent and powerful one, and I think the one that's missing for most people, is what we call now connection medicine, and realizing the impact of how you talk and how you think and what you do and how you show up in each moment is a choice, and that choice affects everybody around you. It affects how the people around you show up, and then also affects your physical health. And to me, that was really fascinating. That not only does it make your external world more enjoyable, it changes your physiology and your physical health. And once people value connection, then we teach them the skills of doing it, because it's not just about being nice or having lots of friends. It's about being able to sort of let your guard down around your heart, share that in a way that feels like a gift to the people you're sharing it with.
So how has your work with nonviolent communication in VC shaped your approach to helping people heal emotionally?
So nonviolent communication is a framework, an approach. It's really an intention, a philosophy. And when you shift your focus to realize that joy and peace and feeling alive and satisfied in your life, which is what I really believe most people want, and they want a good job and make a lot of money and have a big house. Ultimately, the needs underneath all of that, when you end your life, is to look back and say, I felt alive as much as possible. I felt joy. I feel fulfilled. And if those are your true north, then connection is the way to get there. That's the path. So shifting from trying to be right or to get your way to trying to connect with the other person, identify what your needs are and their needs, and then collaborate to find a way to meet everybody's needs, becomes the way to lead at all times. And then that leads to the inner peace and the fulfillment and the satisfaction and the aliveness that everybody's really searching for.
What kind of role does the nervous system play in healing after a major life transition like divorce?
What role does the nervous system play? The nervous system is, or go ahead, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so the nervous system is designed to not just execute. A lot of people in the nervous system is to move your muscles and to move your body and to fix your body, but it's also designed to take in information from your environment. So it's not only, and it goes both ways. So it's taking in your thoughts, but also depending on how your nervous system is, it can create different thoughts. Because your nervous system basically is trying to decide, are we safe or is there threat? And
Fight or
based on
flight.
whether it perceives the environment as safe or threatening, it's going to shift your physiology. It's going to shift what's going on, in all of your organs, like your stomach, your breathing, your heart rate, your even how you appear on your skin. So your nervous system is taking that information, and then it's trying to decide, okay, what do we do? And then that's going to affect how you think and how you talk and how you show up. Because if I'm under threat, this happens with my wife a lot. If I'm mobilized and under resourced, like I didn't sleep well, I worked really hard, I didn't take breaks, I didn't, eat as much as I needed to, and all of a sudden my nervous system is mobilized in more of that threat physiology, like I'm not feeling safe and comfortable. Then I'm going to hear her differently, and my voice is going to come out differently than if I feel safe and resourced. So it's really interesting. And also my ability to connect to my nonviolent communication skills is going to be different if my nervous system is mobilized in threat or if it's feeling safety. So I can give you all sorts of examples in my life where that has shown up. But once you know that, then taking time to resource your nervous system. Like, for example, I know if I stay up and watch Netflix before bed for an hour or two, I don't sleep as well. And then when I don't sleep well, I know I'm more likely to snap at my kids and my wife the next day. So basically, I say before I go to bed, do I want to watch this show? Because if I do, I'm going to get in more fights with my wife and kids and feel terrible about how I talk to them, or more likely to have that happen. So you see what I'm saying? Once you realize that's how your nervous system goes up, it affects everything else.
It's almost like fight or flight.
Exactly. Fight or flight that's the mobilized nervous system ready to fight or flee. And we want to stay out of that as much as possible, only go into that when there's a real threat. But unfortunately, most people have this sort of chronic drip of threat that they feel all day long. And that really is draining to the system. It actually increases inflammation and causes all sorts of physical health problems.
Wow.
And it wreaks havoc in your relationships.
Man, you talk about restoring safety and presence. How can men over 40 begin to feel safe again after the emotional upheaval of divorce?
That's a good one. I probably can't do that justice in a couple of minutes, but I think nonviolent communication is a framework that is super helpful. And if people start to learn how to connect to their pain, their feelings, and their needs, even if they can't figure out a way to meet them, they start to experience more inner peace. So, for example, a lot of people, one, don't connect to their feelings, and even if they connect to their feelings, they don't connect them to needs. So some people might say, I'm feeling really sad. Some people won't even feel the sadness or the loneliness or the hopelessness. And that's a step to just be able to feel that. But then once you feel that, to be able to connect it to needs, I'm feeling really sad right now and really lonely. I just want more connection, more intimate connection. So now I connected it. Do you see how I'm connecting it to a need for connection and intimacy? And then once you connect it to a need for connection and intimacy, then you can actually take that and make a request of yourself or someone else, which is, okay, what can I say or do? What action can I take that might meet my need for connection or intimacy in this moment? And it doesn't have to be, I have to get a girlfriend. It can be, what would meet my need for connection right now in intimacy is to actually connect with somebody else, to just show up differently, to send a really warm and heart-loving, heartfelt message to somebody you care about. And then take a moment to feel that and feel the impact. In fact, I have an interesting story of how that works. I wrote about this in our Substack about returning a rental car at Newark Airport. And the guy that came up to me was a kid. And he said, "Hey, how's it going?" But he had this big smile, and it was like he was so happy to see me. I couldn't even understand. I'm like, I'm just returning a rental car. I'm about to get on a plane. I was a little bit miserable. And I looked at him and I couldn't help but smile back. And then I noticed that I felt in my body differently. It shifted my body. And I said to him, hey, bud, I just want to appreciate you. It was 30 seconds. But I said, before I left, I want to appreciate you for coming up and being happy to see me. It really met a need for mattering and to feel connected in that moment. And he looked at me and he had an even bigger smile. So it was like we were playing, feeding off each other. And he said, "Thanks so much for saying that." He goes, "I really try my best." And he goes, "Here's a card if you feel like emailing, the management to let them know." So I put it in my wallet. I said, whatever. It was a nice minute. When I got home, I saw the card. I was like, but I decided to spend 5 minutes writing the email.
There you go.
And I wrote this email, and I felt so good after writing this email because I reconnected to the joy and the connection to that person in that moment. So right in that the next moment at home, I relived in my nervous system the same joy that I had at the airport. I sent the email. I didn't think anything of it. I got an email back from the manager 2 days later, and she wrote this beautiful message that she was so grateful that I sent this.
Wow.
She sent the email to the guy, and she sent it to her entire team. And she said, "Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it." And I felt so wonderful because then, see, now I contributed. That was another need, contribution to her entire team. And then I felt another hit of joy and connection. So you see how we can meet these needs,
Yep.
so in all these different moments, I met needs for connection and contribution and joy that we don't realize we have the ability to feel in any moment once we get clear on our needs and then start getting creative on strategies to meet them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I've got a story for you. So I was between undergrad and grad, and I was working at a Marriott hotel, and I was bartending or waiting tables. And I was hanging out and I waited on this couple from Des Moines, Iowa. And we're talking and, he was a lawyer and I said, "Hey, I'm going to dental school." And, we're jaw jacking, just having a connection. And, they signed the bill and they left a check for $250 made out to me and the university for books.
Oh my God.
So I
Wow.
still talk to those people 40 years,
Really?
50 years later. Oh yeah. 50 years later, we are still friends. Yeah.
It's so amazing. Like a lot of people, they want connection and they're waiting for the world to connect with them.
Them instead of
But
giving it.
you can meet your need for connection by connecting out.
Yeah.
And once you realize you have that power, like I used to go on a hike on Runyon Canyon here in Los Angeles. And I would go, and I used to believe that people in LA are not friendly, and everybody just cares about themselves, and everybody on the mountain is looking down. But then I decided one day to feel just connect to the joy of being out there and smiling. And I said, I'm going to send this energy of happiness to people and look at them and say hello. And what was amazing was probably 8 out of 10 people smiled back at me and were so happy to see me is the way it felt.
Yep.
That I almost, it almost feels like you're famous. Like all these people are smiling and saying hi just because of how I'm showing up differently. And that's what I think people don't realize is that you at any moment can choose your default state, which is not, you're not choosing, you're just showing up how you've always shown up. Or you can make a choice and say, I feel like I could use some connection and warmth. So I'm going to send out connection and warmth through this strategy and then watch how the world starts to meet me in the middle there.
Wow. That was deep. Yeah. Yeah. Connection is big. So I ride Monday, Wednesday, Friday, mountain bikes in the morning, 5:30 with some friends of mine. And I say hi to every single person I pass or they pass
Oh,
me. I say hi to every single one. Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they don't do anything. I do the hand wave. I say hi, but I physically say something every person I see.
that's it's
Yeah.
so powerful when people walk around now saying the world is so full of hate and the world is falling apart. But you know what? If everybody started just sending out love and warmth, regardless, it's not to get something back. That was the challenge for me was to shift. I used to smile tentatively and hope that they smiled back. And if they didn't, I felt like, oh, that was embarrassing. Now it's like I'm sending out this gift of love, and if they take it, great. And if they don't, I don't. It's about me sending it out, and it totally shifts, which is interesting because in LA, I'll tell you, I was driving next to somebody, and he was looking at me. Have you ever had that where you look at them and all of a sudden you're in like a little bit of a staring contest and then you look away because you're like a little uncomfortable well, I kept looking and he was looking at me, so I waved. And he didn't respond back, so I waved like he didn't see me. And then he goes this look
What do
this look like, what's up, bud? And like almost like
you
it was
want
like
some?
confrontational. Yeah, yeah.
You want some
And
of this?
I'm yeah, no, it was seriously. And I'm like, why is this guy? I was so shocked that this
I'm
guy,
waving, man.
yeah, he couldn't. So then I rolled the window down and I said, I'm saying hello. And he looks at me, he's like, I was looking over there. I wasn't looking at you. He thought I was like waving, like I had a problem with him, like sarcastically, or
Oh
like
my
he couldn't
God.
believe that somebody was just waving to
You're
say
not.
hello.
Yeah.
And
You,
so
man.
then when I said I'm just saying hello, he goes hello, and then he drives off. Like it was like I was like, are you kidding me? This is the world right now. So it needs our help.
Oh yeah. You want some of this? Huh? You want some? Huh? Huh?
I said, who knew that a wave? But there's actually people in LA that are afraid to wave because they're thinking that someone else might take it the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the the give and go on it. You never know to be too nice or nice or not nice enough, and people take advantage of you. So people are reserved. There's so many play outs there. Wow, that's funny. Oh my God, you made me cry. That was interesting. Oh man.
It's so funny. And when people are in when I work with couples or people that have been are going through divorce, there's so much pain that when you're mad at someone else or you are sort of not in integrity with your values when in the way you act with them, meaning like you might say something or do something that you would call mean or not very kind,
Hmm.
it's coming from a place of hurt and sadness, and you want empathy. When kids hit other kids, they're not bad kids. They want other people to feel the pain that they're feeling. So when you're going through divorce and that person stimulated pain in you, you're trying to meet a need for empathy, and you want them to feel the pain that they have stimulated in you. The problem is that even if you get them to feel really badly, it doesn't really feel satisfying because it doesn't meet other needs of yours. So
Hmm.
there's other ways to get empathy, but you have to go vulnerable to get that empathy in that way. It's very easy to be mean to people. It's much harder to connect to your pain vulnerably. But once you do, then you no longer have to meet your need for empathy by being mean to the other person. You can now show up differently and then connect with them. So then you can imagine if you went to your partner, your ex partner, and because you got so much empathy, you didn't have pain inside you in the same way. And all of a sudden, you could just be kind, meet your needs for kindness and care of all human beings, whether it's your ex partner or somebody else. You want to be caring and kind to all human beings. So you show up with care and kindness. They're going to act differently just because you show up differently. But the key is it's hard to do that when you still have a lot of pain and a lot of need for empathy. So those are the steps. But it's amazing once you do that.
Yeah, you got me thinking. That's
What are you thinking?
very interesting. Where like I had a friend who went through a divorce, and his ex was just bitchy to him all the time. He couldn't do anything right. The co-parenting space was tough. So what do you say to a guy like that who's going through that, and he just has to be nice, and then maybe eventually should turn around, or what's the deal with that?
No, it's hard to be kind to somebody else when you are in pain. So when you're angry, and this just goes for anybody that's angry, when someone's angry, they're in a lot of pain. In fact, they're in so much pain that they're going to talk in ways that are least likely to get their needs met. So the key is to get your empathy first. So when someone else is stimulating a lot of pain in you, get your empathy and feel like they treated me in a way that so did not meet my need for respect and care and mattering. And I'm so sad and hurt by the way they showed up. And ultimately, I'm hurt because my needs for care and mattering weren't met. And you connect to that for a while, and you let that have some face time, some air, get that some air around that. And once you've done that, you'll start to feel a shift in your body, and you mourn. You mourn the loss of the relationship that could have been and that you wished had been. And then once you've completed that mourning, which a lot of people don't do, which is why they continue to hold on to pain and suffer as a result, all of a sudden it doesn't meet a need anymore to treat them without being kind. And then you can empathize. So when somebody says to you, give me an example of something your partner might say that you would say is, an ex-partner might say that's mean.
You
Give me
know,
something.
you're not raising the kids right.
Oh,
You're a waste. You're nothing. Things like that.
yeah. So what I do is I say, listen to the words long enough to connect to their heart, and then stop listening to the words. So their heart, when someone says you're not raising them right, is to don't take that in. Just say, oh, I get it. So you really care so much about the kids and have a way that you want the kids to be taken care of, and it's different than the way I'm taking care of them. Is that what's going on for you? So I'm now empathizing with their need around care for the kids, and I'm acknowledging that they like to care for the kids differently than I do. But I'm not taking in
Yep.
their criticism, which is basically their way of expressing their need for care and a preference to do it differently.
Yes, I see that. Interesting. Wow.
But do you see what hurts us? Do you see what hurts us is when we take in their criticism?
Yep.
It's not their words. It's when we believe their words and start to, like absorb that. But if we can say, hey, I like to care for the kids, I like giving them ice cream before dinner.
Yep.
Okay, I like that. My wife or my ex partner does not like giving them ice cream before dinner. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but she thinks it doesn't meet their need for health.
Yep.
And I say, I don't care as long as they get the dinner in and the ice cream in, whether it's before or after, doesn't matter to me. So she might say, hey, Matt, you're not raising the kids right. But what I'm hearing is, oh, you prefer to meet the need for health by giving them ice cream after they've eaten the dinner. So I don't take it in. I don't take it in. That's the key.
So it's almost like you take the coat, you don't put the coat on, you put the coat on the hanger, and you explain the coat.
Yes, I like it. I like it.
Huh?
Don't get into the coat.
Don't wear the coat.
Don't put the
No.
coat on.
Yeah, we're not wearing the coat.
And the coat isn't right. The coat isn't wrong. It's just the coat that they like.
Yep. And just put it on the hanger and look at it. Say, hey, there's your coat. Wow.
Yeah. And you give away your power when you just put it on because they hand it to you. Just because someone hands you a coat doesn't mean you got to wear it.
Yeah.
I like this. Maybe I'll write an article using this. Do you mind if I steal this?
Go ahead. Substack, baby, right here, David Webb.
There we go. We're done. Thank you.
Mic drop. So let's talk about co-parenting, and let's talk about co-parenting with a narcissist flavor that you're receiving the narcissist. What are some of the things you can do besides not put the coat on?
So here's the first thing you can do is as soon as you have the idea that someone's a narcissist, you're automatically disconnecting from that person because you're labeling them, which is going to create distance. So instead, I translate because I really think there's a power in the words we use.
Mm-hmm.
So I would translate narcissism to someone who really has a deep need to matter. They just want to be seen and they want to know that they matter. And for much of their life, they have not figured out a way to really be seen and matter in the way they would like. Now, do you see the energetic shift when I see somebody? All of a sudden, it shifts to compassion a little bit for me. I don't know about you.
Yep.
But if I see them as a narcissist, I'm like, ugh, and I pull away and I go into defensive protection mode. When I see it as someone who just so wants to matter and be seen and has not met their needs for mattering, I feel compassion for them. Now, I don't have to like the coat that they give me to try and matter, right? I don't have to enjoy that.
Okay. The coat might be too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might be, the coat might look like talking about how great they are and wanting everything to be about them.
Yep.
And that's a way to build up their sense of value and worth. And I'll be like, oh, okay, so when you talk about yourself, you're not self-centered. You really want to feel like you have worth and value, and you want people to know that. And you don't trust that you do unless you really talk about yourself like you do.
Gotcha.
Okay, I get it. Now, I don't like that. I don't enjoy when people talk about themselves like that. But I can at least not hate them. I can have compassion for them.
It's almost like you're listening to, I hear what you're saying, but you don't put the coat on. You say, hey, thanks for telling me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if they say things like, give me an example of someone you would label as a narcissist, what they might say, that would be hard to hear.
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. Can't grab anything because my mind is still in the coat. So
see, we've shifted. You can't even come up with criticism anymore.
Man,
We've healed you.
I got way too much compassion right now. can't do so many bad things. Damn it.
It's so funny how that works, though. When I first started learning nonviolent communication, I could come up with judgments and evaluations like that. But just like any language, all of a sudden you start using this language, the other language becomes harder to, and in moments like this, when your heart is shifted towards compassion, it becomes harder to connect back to the criticism that you used to see the world through.
Yeah. And then the other buzzword is gaslighting, which I think is like a little bit of narcissism. So it's almost like gaslighting is almost like they give you the coat, you put the coat on, and then the coat's on fire. It's like, don't put the coat on, man. Don't put the
Yeah.
coat on. So yeah,
Don't put on, and you don't have to pretend the coat's not there. You don't have to argue about whether it's a good coat, a bad coat. Does it fit? Is it the right coat? Like some people will argue, like that's the right coat you should be wearing, and you're like, no, that's not the right coat I should be wearing. This is the, you don't have to get. You'd be like, oh, okay, well, in your world, that's the perfect coat. Like, in fact, that's how I get connection with a lot of couples. I'll say, hey, we don't have a shared reality right now. In person A's reality, they really like things to happen this way. Or can you imagine if they, here's a good one. Someone will say to the partner, they'll, person A, let's say Jane. Jane will say to her husband John, and she'll say, John, you were yelling at me, and I feel hurt, and you were wrong the way you yelled at me. And John will say, I didn't yell at you. And then they're arguing about whether John yelled or not. And what I say is, hey, let's pause here. John, I know that you didn't intend yelling to come out, but can you imagine if she heard yelling, that why she would be hurt and a little bit scared by that? Now I know, John, you weren't trying to yell at her, but she heard yelling for whatever reason. Can we empathize with the fact that she's scared from what she perceived as yelling? So I'm starting to separate
yep,
and give them space for both to be true. He didn't intend to yell, and she heard yelling. To me, that's the same thing with the coats. Like, hey, there may be two coats here. There's two different realities. Can we empathize with their reality without agreeing about whether it's right or wrong?
correct.
And that creates connection, and that creates more fulfillment and satisfaction and joy in your life. That's why you do it. It's not because this is the right way to speak. It's because it makes my life more wonderful.
What does blending science with soul mean to you?
To me, in fact, we just had this guy that is like a hero of mine. He on our podcast, we recorded it the other day, and he talks all about social genomics, which is basically how your immune system and the genes in your immune system turn on and off based, different genes will turn on and other genes will turn off based on how you're experiencing your environment. So your genes, a lot of people think your genes are your destiny, but actually certain genes turn on or other genes turn off based on what you're perceiving in your environment. So if you see your environment as threatening, if you believe that you're lonely, if you don't have meaning and purpose, all of these turned on different genes in your immune system so that you had more inflammation, you were unable to fight viruses as well. Cancer metastases were increased because of how you perceived your environment. And to me, that was so interesting is that at the soul, things that we used to think of fluffy, like loneliness and meaning and purpose and care and trust and safety, all of that affects your body physically. And there's science now that shows how the biology shifts based on all of those things in your world. That to me is sort of the blend of science and soul, because I used to think that how you feel and think is different than sort of your biology and your physical.
All right, we're coming to the end. This has been interesting. You got three things to tell my men out there. What are the top three things you want to tell them when they're going through their suffering or or disconnect? What are the
Yeah.
things you want to tell them?
The top things I would say, one is to connect to your own heart first, to feel that pain. And that's sort of the path out, is to connect to your pain versus do something or fix something. Once you've connected to that pain, the next thing would be to really learn how to shift how you think about other people and how you show up so that the focus is connection instead of correction or blame or defensiveness. So those to me would be the first two, is connect to your pain before you do anything else. Pause, and then shift your intention to the connection above all else. And then the last thing is to know that we are basically a bunch of people that run on patterns and habit. Okay. And how we're showing up today is just basically because of how we showed up for the last 40 years. But we have a choice. And if we create new habits, we'll start to create new patterns, and it'll happen quickly in a matter of months. And what then happens is your nervous system, we've learned this, that your nervous system shifts. It's very fluid, so that you can basically shift how you see the world, how you show up, and how your body functions in a matter of months based on just shifting these patterns. We have so much more power than we realize.
Man, I'm kind of mad at you right now because I'm trying to get some bad thoughts. I can't even get bad thoughts. You've taken my bad thoughts and watered them all down. Damn it. Because I was trying to come up with examples. I'm like, man, bad examples. All right, Matthew, I really appreciate your time. That was a lot of fun. And I do give you permission to use the codes in the Substack. So go ahead and do that.
I love that. And if people want like free content about this, we talk about it in our Substack connection docs. And we also talk about bringing it into families on our Weeby Parents podcast. So there's lots of ways to get this information if you're interested.
And where can people find you on the internet? And I'll have the connections in the show notes, but let them know where to find you.
So the Substack is, if they search Connection Docs Substack, or if they go to weebyparents.com, they'll get the podcast. And then our website is just connectiondocs.com. Those are probably the best ways to find us. And yeah, it's, here's what I leave you with. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So you're not going to get it all right, but it's so worth doing that even if you get it half right, it starts to make a difference in your life.
It's worth it. Stair steps. All right, Matthew, hold on the line here. We'll go ahead and clock out. But I really appreciate you taking time this morning to hang out with me, and we'll definitely have you come back and unpack and wear some more coats. So
thank you, David. It was a pleasure.
All right, hold on.